another pig podcast here with my good friend Tobias Smulders.
And my good friend, Brian Hogben.
Right on. Right on. Man, the market is just still on fire, isn't it right now?
Literally. Like,
bananas.
If it was a chicken, it'd be running around with its head cut off.
It's true. And on fire.
And on fire.
Wow, we're painting a pretty dastardly scene right now.
It's a phoenix. It's rising from the ashes.
Yeah, well, it's like I saw numbers. I haven't seen October's numbers, but I saw some stats from Remax. Mm-hmm. And unit sales are down September over October, but give or take, September over October, the market was up like 7 to 10% still, just from month over month.
It's insane.
The price was higher.
Yeah, and I believe that those like sale transaction numbers are strictly supply related. Like, if there was more would sell.
Yeah, fair enough. So I think, we've asked this question a bunch of times, but I think it's, a conducive time to ask it just as always is, is it a good time to buy? Like, is it a good time to buy an investment property, right? We've got pending rate hikes. Like, it's not a maybe, it's not a doom gloom, but it's like, for real, like bond yields are spreading, which means that we're going to see rates go up 2, 3, 4 times next year.
Amazing.
And then maybe 2, 3, 4 times in 2023. So we're gonna see some. So what do you think? Are you looking to buy?
You're looking to buy, yeah. Well, and we always like that we have different opinions, but I think on this one we're gonna have the same opinion.
Maybe.
The best time to buy is yesterday.
Yep.
And then the next best time is now. And sometimes I'm a little bit passive on like timing that because it's really hard to time it. But I think on the last time we talked about this, I was like, I don't know if I would buy right away. But that was like 6 or 8 months ago.
Yeah, totally.
And if you took my advice, you didn't buy and you waited, you missed out on like roughly 20 to 25% increase depending on our areas. That's our sort of like year to date increase.
Over the past, that's a huge increase.
It's a huge increase. And a good example we were just talking about off camera, we had the house next door to our home was for sale, and it was a bit of a slow time. It was like 16 months ago, so contributing factors made it a little bit dicey of a time to just pull the trigger on something.
Right.
But it was for sale. It was over 30 days on market, and they ended up selling for $880,000 or $890,000, and it just relisted this week, and it just sold yesterday with a preemptive offer. They ended up with 4 at least, and they went for 1.28. Holy
shit! Wow.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's so crazy. Yeah,
and I think it's another interesting thing right now too is I was looking at stats where it's saying 1 out of 4 buyers right now, and tell me if you think this is true, but 1 out of 4 buyers right now is an investor. So 25% of the people out there are investors, 75% are repeat or first-time home buyers. So those investors out there right now, and they're the ones that are buying with cash probably most of the time because they pulled out some equity.
Totally.
So you would buy a house right now too.
I would buy. We looked at trying to buy that place. We wanted it. And
you know what? I gotta admit I would too, but I'm a little bit more hesitant than I was before.
Yeah.
But still would, and the hesitation only comes from I don't need the deal of a century, right? Because I think that's almost impossible to find. But I think it really comes down to what we've said a million times, and it's not rocket science, but it's coming back down to the fundamentals, right? The fundamentals are buy and hold, okay? And I'm not against my flipper friends out there, my flipper Freddy and everybody like that, but it's just harder, right? Because then you're really dependent upon timing in a flip.
Totally.
I probably definitely wouldn't flip right now, only because I think we're in a state of the market with rates going up, but...
I think so too. Like, I would be more leery. I'm sure people who do more flipping are just like, we just keep doing it.
It's a business.
It's a business, right?
Yeah.
And they'll take a smaller margin to continue to operate business.
Yeah.
But I still think we got lots of like positives. With immigration reopening. Still like very extreme underfed demand. In existing market conditions. We still have 75% of those people are
looking for homes.
We won't call them homeless, but they're without a home until they get something for whatever reason.
That is true.
And then I even think in like our core city areas, I think as things return to normal, already being in demand for, say, like Hamilton, Halton, Toronto area, there's a lot of people that had exodus, I think, preemptively, that are going to have to come back.
Very true. People that moved even outside of Ontario, maybe they'll come back, or people who moved up north. Like there was a massive amount of shifting where that's going to create something too. I think,
and I don't think that'll be like an acute short-term problem. I think that'll be something that over the years, those people are going to have to return for whatever reason.
And you know what? And here's sort of the one different thing I have, that is different right now, I think, is where, I think on this podcast, and our mantra has always been invest. Investing's changed my life, your life. It's always been amazing. And kind of the message has always been leverage up at all costs, right? Yeah. Right now, I'd be a little bit more conservative about leveraging up privately, only because I just met with actually a great power sale lawyer, and he had a great thing to think about. And it's something that, my attitude on affordability is that it's always there. But not everybody thinks like me and you. Because when me and you got a mortgage, let's say you got a mortgage at 2%, you had to qualify at a stress tested rate of 5.25. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, I can afford payments because I had to get afforded 2 or 3 times the rate. But what happens with people, because I have to think of how other people think. If I get used to a payment, I'm not budgeting for rates going up. Some people, maybe not you guys listen here, but some people maybe bought a nicer car, bought some nicer clothes, went out for dinner, grabbed some debt. So now when that payment does go up, even though that they were stress tested for it, they didn't account for it.
Totally.
And now when that first mortgage gets higher, anybody who's got private second mortgages, which does happen, and for investors, for other people too, that rate will go up a little bit too as rates go up, but also your first mortgage got more expensive. So there may be a portion of the market that, and to some, it's very hard to determine how many people have private mortgages, but to some estimates, it's almost 25%. Like that's kind of crazy to think. Like 1 in 4 people has a private mortgage. That's completely not validated, just that's not
that's amazing.
You can fact check it, and if you do and I'm out to lunch, please let me know. Okay, but is that going to be enough to affect the supply? Will there be enough people that run into problems that affect supply? I don't know. I don't think so, but I think it might curb the massive 30% growth again.
I don't anticipate seeing that again. You think you probably only see that like once a lifetime. We saw it once a decade for the last little while. Like we had another 20% stint period years back, but I think that was just like a market correction in our demographic area, our geographic area rather.
I think so too. I think it's like if you're going to get an investment property today, you're buying top of market. I think it's fair to say, like top of market, whatever that means. It just means it's higher than it's ever been before.
Last year it was the same answer.
It was top of market too,
top of market, and the year before,
right?
But I think we'll have to see some sort of flattening of this massive appreciation.
Yes. Well, and I think the thing too is that because if you leverage up privately right now, typical private mortgages are going to be interest only, right? The good thing about getting an institutional mortgage, even if it was with a B lender, like one of those lenders that's a little bit more expensive, you're still getting principal pay down. Totally. And with interest rates being as low as they've ever been, your principal pay down is tons. Like you're paying off, on a 25 to 30 year mortgage, you're paying off almost 16% of your principal in the first 5 years with these interest rates.
Incredible.
So that's low, but on a private, you wouldn't.
You would, yeah. Private, you definitely need like a quick exit strategy. I think.
Within a year, anyways. Within a year.
That to me that's quick. Well, so we'll say that is time in the market, not timing the market, is the most important thing. So if you're buying today with the plan that you're going to keep it for 20 years, I think it's very hard to time the market and say next year we'll buy.
I agree, and I think if you can buy right now, and you do need some private money, and you have a long-term strategy, and you've got
a plan to get out,
and you've got cash flow coming in, right? Still buy, definitely, right? I think it's not so much of I think it was just we could look brilliant and say buy anything a year ago or 2 years ago, and we were brilliant.
Yes.
Now I think it's like.
Be more selective.
I think that's a fair point.
And I think I've come to a point in my portfolio where I say that all the time now too, like being more selective, where I would just buy anything that was like a good buy. at the time, I was like, oh, this is a deal, let's buy this. This is a deal, let's buy this. Right. Now I think I'm more critical about thinking about what I want to do with it and where does it take me and what's the end result for that product.
That just comes as we get older, Tobias.
Yes.
As we get older, you know?
Older and longer in the face.
Yeah. If we got a few minutes here, we could talk about heritage, because this is something that came up for me on a heritage building. I had an offer on a building, and it was a big one. You know, it was 4 semis, 8 units, 3.75 million is what we're looking at, give or take. And it wasn't disclosed that it was on a list, so it wasn't heritage yet.
Yeah.
But it was on a list to become heritage.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it freaked me out. Like, I was just kind of like, you know what? It's kind of like if I'm buying an investment property and it's a grow up. Well, I don't want to deal with it. Even if it's remediated, totally. Nothing against the grow ops, right? But it's something that it's attached to, and I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? Same with heritage, but I was forced to learn a bit about it.
Yeah.
And it may be not a terrible thing, but what would your opinion be on marketability or things like that when you have a heritage home?
You definitely, like, when you're selling something, like in a hot market right now, you don't have to worry about overcoming so many hurdles or objections with property. Like, you can take a disaster and it'll sell. You don't have to overcome the objection that, oh, this place is destroyed. It's like, well, yeah, that's why it's priced how it is.
Right.
But if, you know, for this property, for example, or any heritage property, if you come to a market where we won't call a buyer's market, because I don't know if we'll ever see that in our lifetime, but a balanced market, totally. Even, you know, where there's other options and there's, you know, sales aren't outpacing new listings, and you get to a place where there's product on the market and people are spending, we'll just use that, $3.8 million,
something like that,
$3.4 million property. They have options when they have $4 million to buy something, and there's product available. They could look at that and say, there's this one too, it's the same price and it doesn't have any hurdles, or it doesn't have any objections. So for long-term thinking, I think it's definitely something to definitely consider and not just to hop into. We did have a client who had a heritage designated property, exterior was heritage designated, and it was a bit of a pain for him when he went to do his renos, because he couldn't change certain appearance of the exterior facade.
You have to abide by the rules of the Heritage
Council. Yeah, and so everything required approval, so it took longer. It wasn't everything.
It might have been more expensive to renovate too, right?
More expensive to renovate. You got, you know, again, you got cost of ownership for a period of time too, because everything takes more time. You have to abide by certain things, and they did have to find a certain way to retain the exterior window shape, because it had like peaked windows.
Yes.
So like he didn't want to buy.
Well, now you're not getting a rectangular window. You're
like standard rectangle window. So he wanted to buy, you know, and ended up actually not buying that and had to come up with a creative way to retain that look, but use standard windows. So there's a lot of stuff involved in that reno now. Now he was able to do whatever he wanted inside and made money selling it and was happy with it, and it became a beautiful product and rejuvenated the home. But do you want to deal with that?
Yeah, fair. You know what? And I think too, it's kind of like,
and I don't think you get more money for dealing with that.
Ooh, right? Fair point. Yeah, fair. Like that's. I think we can all agree that's not selling at a premium.
No,
more work in our world is not selling at a premium. Oh, I got to do more. Oh yeah,
definitely.
Give them an extra zero.
Hook them up.
Right. So, and I think that's a very like a simple but a powerful point, because with the heritage stuff, and I think you almost have to be like a rich philanthropist to to want a heritage home, right? Because and I'm not saying I'm against them, because I do think they're beautiful.
Yes.
I think they offer a lot to the community. Totally. They're great to look at, the history and all that. But do I want to own it?
Yeah.
For my portfolio?
Yeah.
No. Right?
If you had a huge portfolio, maybe.
Yeah, maybe if I was like, you know, like
if it was one of the 50.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or maybe 500. Like,
or
I don't know. That could be. Maybe I need way more to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think they are beautiful, but then I think then it's not necessarily, you're not looking at it with your investment hat.
Totally.
You're looking at it with your passion hat or your emotional hat, right? Because then it becomes, I'm a history buff. I love the city. And it's still a valid good reason, but now it's not a money or an investment reason. It's a different reason.
Yeah.
And it's just being true to yourself as to what the reason is.
Yeah.
I think.
And that's especially important. Like if it fits into your model, that's great. If it doesn't fit into your plan, like we talked about before, make your investment strategy and find what fits in your box and try to not go outside of your box because you got a niche that works for you.
I don't think it's any different, come to think of it now when you get a heritage. Like I've seen lots of people do like Steve, I know, does great things with his buildings and Corv, and they do phenomenal stuff, right? But it's like if my business plan for rental properties is single families, then I buy single families. If my business plan is duplexes, buy duplexes, right? Like use your knowledge.
If it's unique character product, you might fall into heritage. And you those things get their own rents for a certain reason too, right? But I think it's just everything is with knowledge and knowing. And so, for example, not having that knowledge and then having it sort of, we'll say, brought to your attention at a point where you've already gone so far, you say, I don't know. And it just sort of, a wrinkle, an objection that they couldn't overcome.
And you know what? And I think, I had someone say it to me earlier. It's just, you got to feel good about your investments, I think. You know what? Like when you go into something and you're buying a property, if you're scared shitless about rising interest rates and buying at the top of the market and the whole world's going to go to hell, like you'll probably give yourself an anxiety attack if you buy a house. So don't do it, right? But if you're thinking, you know what? Listen, you know what? Brian and Tobias are pretty smart. You know what I mean? They would never steer me wrong. And you feel good about biting off something that's manageable. You're not buying a $3 million apartment building or $4 million. You're buying a $700,000 or $800,000 place. Feel good about it.
Totally. And that's another thing too. We've gone to not leveraging our portfolio so much to get stuff too. So we're lucky we have a bunch of properties now, so we don't feel the urgency to grab something because we have nothing. But we've decided now that we sort of like around 50% loan to value, so we don't want to over leverage our portfolio. Should anything happen, we're sort of like insulating that built-in padding to not have to worry.
I like that. You know what? Maybe we should wrap up now, but I think that'd be one for another podcast is how high do you leverage?
How high do you leverage?
That's a good one.
All right. Stay tuned for next time.
If you have any questions, reach out to my buddy Tobias Smulders at Remax, real estate agent extraordinaire, or myself at Mission 35. And
make today a fabulous day.
Cheers.